Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be discussing our next 4K damage guide. The last one we did with Vantage, this one we're doing with Wattson. This was actually done in a coaching session. Now I'm going to critique my coaching as well and provide tips what worked, what didn't work, and as well give you tips on how to improve and get 4K damage. I'm going to turn the volume up. You're going to hear me in the background. I'll do my best because you guys enjoyed hearing the comms and you'll get to hear my kind of decision making as well and how fast we were pushing. And it's hard because the pacing as well, if you want to scale up, you have to make the assumption that your teammate is just going to have to do it, regardless if it's right or wrong. Like, if I know you're near me and I have to make the assumption I'm moving up, that you're just going to move. Like, you know, So the question being asked here, which is a good tip and providing some context for coaching, is whenever you're with your team, and I'll try to be very clear when we're pausing the footage, because I do say a lot of helpful stuff here, and I think that it might be good to share with all of you, that it's best to play smart and as if your teammates are going to play according to the plan. Meaning, if you're pushing and scaling a fight, that you make the assumption that your teammates are going to fight and push with you. And then if you're retreating, and it's a smart retreat because you know that it may not be a fight you want to take, that your teammates are going to run with you as long as you communicate or give some sort of clear indication. I know that's not always the play. Sometimes you feel like you get stuck, but you have to make a decision. You have to be mobile. As they say, you know, movement is life, motion is lotion, I guess, you know, in the doctor world, you know, they say keeping movement keeps your joints good. That's I know that's kind of a silly comparison. Well, I'm infamously known for my horrible comparisons. Let's keep rocking. Make that distinction. So be fast when you're looting as well. The same thing with your teammates when you're playing with your friends and stuff. Also, even playing with your friends, ready, you still have to move towards that spot. Your friends could be sometimes the hardest ones to play with because they're making the assumption that you're going to do a lot of things that you assume they're going to do. When you're playing with randoms, you always expect the worst, right? When your teammates, you get a little bit too comfortable and you get a little overconfident. So I put fences here preemptively. Remember, every little bit of damage matters in terms of 4K. What we're going to do, we're going to pause screen. I'm going to put a list of quick tips in case you don't want to watch the full video and you're here like, where are the tips as? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you the tips real quick. One, every bit of damage you do matters. You got to be strong at close range and long range. Be comfortable with any loadout, especially at the start. Land near the action. Do not land too far away from the action. If you land too far away, you're not going to stack up enough damage. Now, when I say loadout and comfortability, you got to be sure that you pick a loadout that you are comfortable with in the long term. But let's say you despise the Vulcan 3030. You have to get good with them because those guns are pretty good. Even if you land on a Mozambique, that 150 damage that you do with a Mozambique, even at the start, can matter. And even if you down a target for an additional 100, that's also good. If you down targets for an additional 100 damage, that can also help pad your stats. Playing patient can also be very key. Sometimes getting a fight done and over with is not a very good thing. Now, we're going to keep leaving this on screen real quick. And the reason why is that if you finish up a fight too quickly, you don't give them a chance to heal and reset the fight. Now, you don't want to cheese your games this way because you don't want to fight to last too long because you'll get third-partied. But just some quick tips, and we're going to litter them throughout the video as well. But I figured I was like, for those that are watching the video, like, please, Daz, get straight to the tips. There they are. Now we're going to kind of see them more in practice and what we're doing. Shots. Okay, now there's some rules that you can break when taking a fight. Some good damage here. Moving up, moving up. Now, move up quickly is key. Remember, when we say scaling a fight, there are rules that you can break, though, as you do this, okay? Meaning that if your teammate is watching somebody else, there's a pad the damage here, technically, but also gets them out. If they're looking at somebody else, you can kind of wide swing out and not use cover. But ideally, you always want to use cover. There's one here. Notice how when I'm scaling, we gotta go here, quick. I know that they're not paying attention to us or they're overwhelmed. And this person threw an arc. All done. Gen down. Watch the other team. And there's another team going across. There they are. 50-47. Fast on the reset. Resets are really, really important, especially when you want to play aggressive. All done. Very nice. That was a really, really good cleanup. So what I was trying to teach in this coaching session, and you saw kind of like just me move, go, is that you kind of need to be on the move. You know, being on the move is really, really key. If you're stagnant, stationary, you're not going to be doing as much damage. You won't get to the next fight. You won't get to the zone fast enough. You may not get the best positioning. I can go on forever and list them. Now, the rules in terms of disrespecting when you're not using cover, and I'll cover them really, really quickly. We kind of covered them in the last video, but just kind of make sure, like, hey, make sure you get the point. If you do damage and you crack them, you can essentially start moving up and wide swinging just to secure the knock. Another way you can secure it is if they're looking at somebody else. If your teammates have pulled focus and there's a third party. Now, right now we're trying to see if one will make a mistake. There's a mistake. Oh, and you got to go on that. If I was Vantage, I would have flew up on height, but because you're not a mobile legend, I know you're low. You got to heal while you move. So be very, very aware of what your teammates. So I know that my teammate here is low. I misjudged what floor he was on, unfortunately. But I think they do get the res. Let's take a look here. I go to fence it off. Just so I know when they leave. 104 in, 104 in. It's all you. I got, you got focus. I'll take it. Oh, shoot. Oh, he's got it. He's got it. Very nice. So there was a good duck and weave here. You know, I had a lot of confidence. Like, I'm shoving relentlessly when I know. Yeah, I'll explain it here. The minute I know that they are looking, I instantly kind of hide and go for cover, right?
Yeah, it really helped that you said that like you were going in.
Yeah. So the comms here is that knowing when I'm pushing.
Here.
104 in, 104 in. It's all you. So when I say it's all him, it's because I know right now I'm the focus. 104 in, it's all you. And then he pulls focus and I move in. So that's when I say when your teammates take focus. So I wanted to pull just a little further ahead as we reset because we were going back and forth talking about tips and I accidentally tabbed out. So that was just actually doing the recording itself. Now this is a chase that took way too long. And honestly, you probably could have saved more time, gotten more kills and more damage by just going to zone. Because even at the end, you'll notice that we didn't get a whole lot of eliminations.
So evil, Daz.
You can grab the banners. It's so... It's pretty relentless. This is, you know, for chasing somebody this long, we probably shouldn't have, but... I mean, we still got the 4K, so it's kind of neither here nor there, I guess. But if I was being critical... I would also, when I coach, sometimes I like to do duos because it's harder. But sometimes, you know, I can, for 75, review and VODs too can also be beneficial. But I've heard when people are coaching with me, understanding pacing and speed is everything. And I hope that you guys watching this can see how the pacing and momentum can mean everything when you're shoving.
That's why'd you take our banners?
All right, let's skip ahead. Because we're essentially just going to chase this Lobo. I'm going to catch him out right here. It's Q, we're never going to catch her. I have Valk ult on her. Oh, there they are. I'm surprised they stayed, and they didn't even heal. That was very weird. An ult too. That's so nice of her. Very nice, Lobo. We're gonna skip ahead to the next action here. Does my teammate have focus? And then we're essentially breaking down more during the coaching session when I have focus, when the other person has focus. Oh, good rotation here. Utilize your utility. Two of them are. We do fight this, by the way. There's no reason not to fight, especially when you're playing pubs. These guys right here. We want to fight them. Go this way. It's important to go to zone, but we're already near zone, and we know that no other team's really nearby, so which is why we stay and fight this. All right, head glitch. I go for the head glitch here. I'll put Jen down right here. Head glitches are really key to make sure you can maximize on your damage, because they're going to be full body wide swinging. Let's see if they make the mistake. Nice. On the left. Moving up, moving up. So because of the damage call, I went ahead to start scaling and moving up. Oops, there's somebody underneath us. I don't know what this person's here. Hit front. I got him. I got him. This is a good amount of damage. The head glitches just helps a ton, especially when people make mistakes. I didn't review this footage in a while, but there's a lot of mistakes from the opponent. They got the bat off in time. Goes to show, bats take 5 seconds. A lot can happen in 5 seconds. Got him all done. Now, you'll notice that what David Z was learning a lot was a lot of momentum here. I'm more aggressive on my Wattson than I am on my Vantage. I do honestly agree with that. I'm watching. Holding for you. Get a nice head glitch. Cracked, you can shove that. Get to position. Get to position. Nice. So this is another big tip that people don't do a lot of. Holding on my Vantage. You'll notice that I call that I'm holding their angle and that I'm giving them the best support that I can. Get a nice head glitch. Cracked, you can shove that. Get to position. Get to position. Nice. It's a really good tip here. As always being in line of sight of your teammates, so you ensure you're not just taking a 1v1. Yeah, it works. I had your cross with you. I wasn't leaving you by yourself. But we'll take a look and move up a little further. But also, hitbox size are important. So I kind of break that down here during this coaching session. I can kind of hide here, you know. Vantage can't. Like if they were facing that way. But I know Vantage can't. She's too big. And this is the interesting part with like using Wattson or a Legend with a smaller hitbox and the amount of space you can occupy and push. Vantage. It's just Vantage is so hard to play because she's so big. It's like trying to play Gibraltar without a bubble. Yeah, Vantage's really big strength comes from range. But I do love her sniper. Endlessly. So that helps. You know, now that you're seeing the comparison, because I mean, even with Vantage, I had a really great game. But you're 4K damage with Vantage. Like doing it. Just keep that in mind when you're playing with your teammates. That they're not going to move at the same pace as you, but you got to force them to move at like a similar pace. You know. Yep. Like if there's that much damage, you got to like, even though like you did damage, I was already in the fight before you were. So I question if you were the one who did the damage. This is important. This is why when I play Wattson, I always tell people when I'm coaching, because usually when we get into a game, it's usually towards the end of the coaching session. But the biggest note is that if Wattson is beating you into the fight and you are the entry fragger, such as Wraith or Bangalore or somebody who's supposed to be in it, then why is the Wattson beating you there first? Because let's say you did a lot of damage. The job is to secure that damage as fast as possible. It takes 5 seconds before the bat goes off. You saw it based on the Bangalore that we were facing off against. Now, plus side is that it gives us more damage for the 4K damage, right? The downside is that you're not mopping up that fight fast enough. And ideally, you would like to just keep rotating, going for fight to fight to fight to fight. So we're just kind of breaking that down here. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Now, using utility is key. I was trying to say this earlier. If you have a Valkyrie, be sure to use your Valkyrie. If you don't feel like you're using your utility on your Legend, try a different Legend where it might work a little bit better for you. It's really interesting to see, and sometimes I consider if I should play more Wattson again in ranked. I know I've been doing that a lot with Vantage, just because... I mean, the sniper shot's a range damage. Range damage, a lot of people aren't really strong with range damage. And you want to get a 4K, you got to be strong with range. And you're going to see a play here. Because even this little bit of damage here adds up to that 4K.
For 120,
and it puts a lot of pressure.
Should we zip over?
Yeah, I'm moving already. Notice how there's a lack of hesitation to move. You have to move. And don't be scared about moving forward. You're gonna get pinched and you're gonna take damage, and it's okay, and you'll find your way through that.
Just crack, moving up.
This is the hard part about Wattson is like
this might be a ballsy decision, but I'm gonna try for it. It's ballsy. I'm dropping.
It didn't work.
So I'm not there. I'm gonna zip on the other side over here.
So this is the hard part about Wattson and breaching.
Okay, I'm gonna zip up back here and see what I can do.
Now what I do is I preemptively fence here and I put Gen so I have a fallback plan. The biggest thing about Wattson, you'll see that this
I'm holding.
Play does work. Now what they could do is isolate my Valkyrie, but if they do that, then I can push up immediately based on the communication.
Oh, shoot. I'm dropping.
Now, because I put the fences there, take a look.
They were trying to chase me. Batting.
Not just one, but I think 2 of them hit it. Yep, they both hit it. That's crazy.
Okay.
And then they end up leaving.
Okay, I actually baited them with that. That was crazy. Using Phoenix.
The fences, you'd be surprised when somebody's chasing and they're trying to like, get to you as fast as possible, and they don't think about the fences and they just barrel right through.
Leave too.
But it's really key on using the utility. If I didn't, I guarantee I probably would have gotten pushed and probably would have gotten eliminated. Potentially. There is a potential there because, I mean, they would have just kept running at me. It's very clear they wanted to.
We can still fight them.
Ducking and weaving between a fight is very key, and being on equal footing.
Almost knocked lifeline.
The hard part also when you're pushing, and this is good for at least getting more damage as a Wattson,
Move up.
is that you can't necessarily just take zip as they're holding it. And so you want to move up like we're saying here and scale it to the left. Now, notice that David falls a little behind here, which is what happens as we duck and weave through fights. I have to make the assumption that he's going to make the play with me.
They're getting shot in the side.
Yeah, I almost cracked one.
Now, the plus of what I'm proud of David for doing is not being afraid to scale up. It's okay if you make a mistake. Let me stress this. You're going to scale up and make mistakes. The problem that David had here is that I could have moved forward a little bit more with him, but he did let me know there was a team on the left, so that's why I didn't necessarily move up right away. But also making sure you always have cover, right? And it's okay that he got...
scaling. Now you just need the positioning with it.
Yeah, just add the positioning. I'm trying to reinforce it. It's not a bad thing at all. I want to stress that so much that it's not bad if you get eliminated, because then you can review and say, did I have positioning? But also want to make sure that you understand why I didn't scale that fight was because he just mentioned that there was another team. So if I ran up, I needed to make sure what am I getting myself into, and unfortunately we ended up getting 32. This was a pretty solid fight. I had to kind of just fight the best I can. I'm using the railing here as well for some cover. I think I end up leaving this because another person shoots me on the left. Oh, there's a builder.
That's another squad. No.
At this point, we're already 3,000 damage in. And it is duos. I mean, I think we end up with like 8 or 9 kills because last squad. But again, every little bit of damage counts and adds up, right? Even when the game starts to get slower. Towards the end here, this is where the game unfortunately gets a lot slower. And at some point you have to say, okay, I have to just go to zone and start playing zone and playing for the end, right? That's the only unfortunate thing that you can do. Because, I mean, there's only 2 other squads.
Which is kind of dumb for me to do. I should just go to the choke. There's no light. I'm screaming.
I literally have no ammo, so I have to just keep running. which is why rotation, it was a risky play opening up those bins, and I called it ahead of time. It probably could have gotten me killed. But also being self-aware about this stuff is really, really important. I think you'll be less frustrated with yourself as you're playing the game when you can call out your own mistakes ahead of time. And you know, like, oh, this may not be good, but you do it because there is a slight chance of success, and then you try to, you're essentially, I don't know the right terms to use here, so I'll use probably the more improper term, like gambling, essentially. You're saying there is a percentage that I could die here, and I'm going to just gamble and then hope for the best. Not the best terminology to use, but when you're playing with percentages, it's like playing Mario Party. You know, you're playing with chances, and that can be a little difficult, so just be careful for that. Now, because I know the duo's on the right, and this team has been fighting a lot, I don't know where the other team is located. I'm just trying to posture up and take up a good area while I'm gathering as much light ammo as possible, because I do burn through pretty much every bit of ammo that I do have. But also, the way I do coaching, in case any of those are curious, we go in-game, we do 1v1s, I look at VODs. It depends on where I see we can focus the most. So I drop another armor swap here, so I have it. Just in case I get shoved, which is a possibility. Now, I get pestered by this crypto, and I don't really know where they're at, and I never learned their solo until later, but they are, and they end up pretty far away. This duo squad, for some reason, never really pushed me. There's a lot of moments they could have secured, and they could have countered me and beat me, and there's a lot of scenarios where I think they could have done that. So we're going to skip ahead, because they're looking at somebody else, and this gives me the information on the crypto.
What the heck are you?
Let's see where we can find some of the damage that I was doing. So what I decided to do, I tried to put the balloon here. I didn't know where to put it. And I fly up. That's pretty much my goal. And I go to the center, which gives me a little bit more damage, but also gives me some positioning. I know it's going to pull in another spot, but I don't want to get shoved, and I want to be in the center. Gives me a little more loot as well. Now, if you're not a mobile legend, the evac tower is probably one of your best utility that you can utilize. I've used it several times as Wattson to get up on a wall, to scale an area. It's so key to have an evac tower. So if you're trying to get your 4K and you're trying to get better position like this, an evac tower is going to be your best friend, because there are some spots you can't get to, and the evac tower really helps kind of equalize if your legend just doesn't have that mobility. So at this point, the reason why, in case you're probably asking why I'm not healing, is I'm intentionally slow healing by letting the Wattson passive kind of do a little bit of work. And it is working for now. I think it almost gets me like a full cell. But it's kind of why I'm being stingy with it, because I don't know how many resources I even call it right here. I just don't want you guys to look and say, why is he not healing? It's a bit of a bait, but I also want them to get a little excited and to leave their positioning. If they can leave their position, that's ideal. And there's also good damage here. Seeing this kind of damage reinforces that, man, I should just run on Wattson more often with like a 30-30 or a G7. Because my shots, even with this, because I know a lot of you are a big fan of the Vantage snipes, the stuff I can pull off at range with the Wheeze loadouts is also really, really strong as well. And I just
really should have held the gen, but...
And the reason why I say I should have held the gen as well, I use it to heal up, to save some heals, but also it could save me in a utility in a pinch over there, which is why I'm calling that. Remember, notice how every little bit of damage is adding up? As much damage as you can put pressure. You don't necessarily have to hide, okay? I want to point that out. By you getting confident in range damage, you can put more pressure and scale up your damage and get a potential 4K, okay? That's really important. Don't be afraid to miss. You're going to have to miss your shots. It's perfectly fine. Notice how I'm missing shots here. This is a great example of it. Missing shots is part of the process, okay? If you want to improve your aim at range, you got to miss your shots. You're not bad, okay? It doesn't mean you're bad at aiming at range. It just takes practice. Every bit of mechanics is different based on the game you're playing. Battlefield has a different bullet velocity on guns. Valorant feels a little different even when you're shooting somebody at a distance, even though there's not necessarily a velocity because of the distance you have to account for. Even games like PlayerUnknown, when you're shooting a sniper at a distance, all of it is something you have to kind of start to get used to, and the only thing to do is just by shooting and missing. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and that's pretty much the tip that I've really put to practice, because I'm not the best when it comes to close range. My long range is where I've excelled, and it's because I've never been afraid to make mistakes. I thought I was honestly going to be eliminated here. I'm surprised this team many times could they have pushed me at this point down below, but they never did. But it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, I don't know if they were worried about the fact that they were getting thirded or what the problem was. It is hard to kind of gauge, but nonetheless.
So annoying, Crypto.
Those quick shots, not too bad. My aim was pretty on point that day. I don't know what's going on. Some days you just have some really good aim and just realize that also it depends on the opponents. Notice how the opponents aren't necessarily
pubs match I've ever played.
they're not necessarily using cover to the best of their ability either. Especially the Scripto just kind of standing out in the open. He's trying to look for a head glitch.
Second at least.
And notice how I stopped looking at... If I get cracked, the concern is that the other team will start to push on me. So I'm trying to be very selective with how I'm peeking and how quick I'm doing it. You can almost call this a bit of a jiggle peek, but I guess you can call it an aggro peek in a way. Now notice I'm literally only a few damage off of 4,000, but I don't still just go for the 4K. You gotta wait passively and know when the right moment is to strike. This happens a lot with 20 badges as well, that people get a little bit too antsy, you know, towards the end. It's like, oh gosh, I could do it, I gotta do it, I gotta do it. Don't worry about it, just keep doing what you're doing and the damage is gonna come. So the damage is already there. Now we're above 4,000 damage at this point. It's just a matter of just being patient and playing the game out the way it's supposed to be played. You will get your 4,000 damage, and I feel like I've said this many times, by just playing you. By playing the way you're meant to. If you're meant to get 4K, you're meant to get 4K. And notice how a lot on the channel we get a lot of 4Ks, and they're done by accident. Like during this coaching session, it was done on accident. It was not intentional for me to get 4,000, and because the time was running over at this point, this was the session was supposed to be 45 minutes. Just so you're aware, for David, I actually gave him like an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 or something. I always go over the amount of time that people pay for. I'm not very good at just giving them your strict amount of time and then leaving. I just want to make sure everyone can get the best out of their sessions, which is part of my problem when it comes to coaching, is because I end up putting a lot more work into it, just as much as I put work into everything else I do. So just so you're kind of aware about like the timing of this, because this was the last thing that we did, and I was like, well, might as well. The biggest thing I was also teaching him is, notice I'm still using head glitches and finding angles, but I'm not overexposing myself. Wattson is just fantastic for this, which is why we talked about the hitboxes before. There are certain areas that smaller legends can hold that larger legends can't. Same thing for Pathfinder. We'll talk about this on a later video as well, where you'll notice that Pathfinder can head glitch on the boxes, like those little bins right there, but other legends cannot.
That's fun.
I think this is where they fight. I should have popped a bat. I didn't think they were going to go into it right away. But because they went into it, I didn't heal all the way. And I just maximized on the damage here. And that was pretty much it. GG. So there it is. So that was a 4,000 damage. I know there's a lot covered here. Hopefully this video was helpful. This was done while doing a coaching session. I didn't intend this to be an episode, but what I found it interesting was that we did it on Wattson compared to Vantage. And every time I see this, it inspires me as well to do better. I feel like I could be more consistent like I was in this video and even play a lot more Wattson. And then when I see myself doing it on Vantage, it inspires me to play Vantage. Those are my two mains that I've been playing a lot of. Let me know what you guys think. I've been trying to alternate between them organically on the channel, and it's been luckily that one week we'll stream with Vantage, and next week we'll stream with Wattson. So this coming Saturday, expect to see Wattson. The last week, we uploaded a 4K with Vantage. This week is going to be a 4K with Wattson. So I kind of feel like the nice alternating between them has been really nice. I appreciate seriously all of you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if this is helpful. I think you guys found the last one helpful. I just wanted to do on a legend that had less mobility, and I figured that might be helpful to kind of see as well, because I feel like a lot of my 4Ks are done on legends that have a lot of mobility. I also have another 4K in ranked on the old system within Diamond that I forgot that I have. So if you want another one of these, let me know, and we could do one with Wattson again, but in ranked. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.